not being able to fully trust all the things you're being told in church about the Bible and where exactly we stand in the timeline. A lot of you are beginning to wake up to things starting to go on in the world, and you're realizing that even the people you trusted the most are acting in a theatrical stage on life and fooling people into obeying their will. And it's time to wake up from all of this. What we were looking at today is reason to believe hiding the millennial kingdom, which we believe now that Jesus did actually return and kept his word and his promise. He said, some of you standing here shall not taste death till you see the return of the Son of Man. And the churches have been teaching now for about 70 or 80 years that the Bible is only relevant to this time and everything deals with us, and Jesus is coming back now despite his words, despite the cover-up of things like this, the building of these castles and massive structures we can't explain, nor can we recreate today. And it is written off as dismissive, and we are told that they had ox carts and chisels, and they just worked really hard. And then the next cop-out with this is slaves. And we're not buying it anymore. And so what's happened with this is, as you begin to wake up to this factor right here, which is the greatest of all, that has been waking people up, you're beginning to realize that they have been staging everything on us. We're going to do a review of this book because so many people have been asking about it. Well, here you go. You're looking at it right now. You can sit down on a computer, and if you really want to know what's going on in the world, if you want to figure it out once and for all, stop being deceived, stop getting poisoned to death by the foods you're eating, stop getting deceived into agreeing to certain laws and different things that are going on because you think this guy or that guy is a good guy. This is your decipher method. This is the way you can figure out, and the secret coding they have been using to fool us to comply. And this is both sides and fake liberal. Here we go into the entrance here, and the beginning of the book starts off, and it uses just one of the, what we call I'm going to use this term, fake flag. That's not the real term, but that's so the algorithm doesn't pick it up. So anyway, this particular fake flag begins with 9/11, and it exposes without a doubt that it was a created event around black magic and false information and using numerology and witchcraft types of things to fool people into going to war and such. So as we begin, it starts off with information here, such as George Bush has spent an uncomfortable day with his people trying to explain away why he failed to pass on warnings to the White House that he had received before September 11th that terrorists were planning to hijack American aircraft. What happened that day has cast a shadow on just about every area of American life. Now, one of the country's best-known journalists has said that American response to the so-called war on terrorism has created a climate of effective censorship in a land that claims to be the home of free speech. This, my friends, was the beginning of the lockdown on free speech in the move that of the area that we are in now with the pandemic took place. And this is almost 20 years ago. This book had begun at that time to try to warn people, and it had to be pulled and kept hidden to this time because the threats that were coming from the information it was exposing, such as this is a supposed passport that belonged to one of the terrorists, that after the towers exploded and the planes crashed into them, real or fake, this passport supposedly floated down through all of that several feet of ash and rubble, and someone found it, a news reporter or a policeman or something found this supposed passport laying on the ground on the sidewalk as evidence. And this was on the news. And this is something that you heard and probably believed it at the time because they were using trauma-based mind control to get you to believe everything, and that emotional effect caused things to bypass your cognitive reasoning. And it works every time, except when you get this book and read it, it will never ever work on you again. So here we are. We have Condoleezza Rice talking about how no one knew that this was coming and how would we ever know. And one of the quotes here by Condoleezza, I don't think anybody could have predicted that these people could take a plane and slam it into the World Trade Towers. That was from National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice. And then there were lots of warnings, says Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. Wow. Contradictory statements, something you find in witchcraft to cause cognitive, it's double-mindedness, cognitive dissonance, and cause people not to be able to figure out anything and just accept the Hegelian dialectic. So again, we start to see as these things tie all together. And I'm just highlighting because there is so much detail and so much information in this book that will reveal to you just how in depth they have tried to do all of these things. So here we see on the dollar bill, Annuit Coeptis, Novus Ordo Seclorum, which means our enterprise has succeeded, New World Order, something none of us want. So they have an agenda that has been uncovered from way back, and you can find it in their writings. I'll give you a highlight of it. It is Agenda 1 is to eliminate the belief in God, as we have seen happening in America. The second is to extinguish national patriotism. The third, destroy the family as we know it. And the fourth is total deception on your mind. And the fifth is to place the entire world under the dictates of one ruler or one ruling group. And this book will expose to you who that is. Funny how you can fold these our money and create secret encoded words. How hard is that? What is the statistical probability of being able to do some of these sorts of things? So there was, as far back as 1962, when Kennedy was in office, there was a plan to get us in war, and they were going to stage an attack in Cuba. So on March 13, 1962, Lyman Lemnitzer, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, designed a war plan called Operation Northwoods. Some of you have heard of this, and he turns it over to the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara. Its purpose was to stage a terrorist attack around Guantanamo Bay in order to create a means for military intervention in Cuba. So here was the plan that was laid out. All right, just to let you know, so I want to move on so we don't, because this book, there is a ton of information in it. So they planned to land Cubans inside of the base, attack, start riots at the gate, blow up ammunition inside the base, burn aircraft on the base, capture assault teams who were trying, that's our own teams were going to be captured, approaching from the sea, things like, think of things that like SEAL team and stuff. Ships near the border entrance, our own ships, designed by our own military, Joint Chief of Staff had planned this. Bomb the base with mortar shells, stage funerals for mock victims. Is any of this sounding familiar to things you've seen over the years now? Develop a terror campaign in Miami and other Florida cities. Have you heard this before or seen this? Destroy a drone aircraft over Cuban waters. The plan would be to put federal agents aboard a plane posing as college students on vacation. A drone plane in the Air Force Base would be painted and numbered as a registered passenger aircraft. The passengers would be left off at the base, and the drone plane would be flown over Cuban waters. They would transmit a Mayday signal before being blown up by remote control. John F. Kennedy subsequently fires Lemnitzer. But anyway, you get to 9/11, and they had planned, they knew they wanted change, and they knew they couldn't get it without creating something catastrophic and catalyzing, as you see here, like a new Pearl Harbor. And there you go. Starts off the following, that set the stage for where we are today and all the things we've been going through. And this part here goes through all the names that you should be familiar with as controlling mechanisms ruining your life. And these sorts of things, you need to know the definitions of all of these here, as you can see on the screen, so that you will not get fooled by what's taking place. Moving right along. And we have this here. You read on the screen. I'm not going to read it out loud because the algorithm will pick it up, and then you probably won't ever see this. It takes you through why World War II happened and what the truth was behind all of it, and how the history you're learning around the 1950s and such up to this date was all created. It was probably in order to bring us to the stage of the formation of the Middle Eastern country that causes us so much trouble. Oh, wow, look here. Here is a book written, never heard of before. This is what was going on in the 1930s with a certain group's plans to take over Germany. And why Germany reacted the way it did was because it learned of a plot for these types of things. They knew what had happened in communist Russia and who was behind destroying that country and murdering almost 50 million Christians. And Germany didn't want it to happen there, and they formed a radical change. That is why World War II took place and all those things happened. We will move through this quickly. You can see what that's referencing to. Oh, what is this? Here's a news article you never saw. Wow, somebody declared war on Germany before Germany ever even entered into any kind of war. Some international bankers plan to destroy Germany. Wow, I wonder if something like that is happening today. Here is the United Nations poster for the creation of the United Nations building. It is a unfinished Tower of Babel. What was the Tower of Babel all about? And why are these upside down pentagrams circling it? Oh, there it is right there, the creation of it, the unfinished Tower of Babel. Who does the United Nations serve? Whoop, our enterprise has succeeded. New World Order on the money. Who snuck that on there? It wasn't always on our money. Moving through here. Why did they use 9/11? Gematria. I have several pages of the gematria and black magic used on 9/11 because 9/11s in gematria, 9/11s, and they do stuff. Don't think it's a joke because there are thousands and thousands of illustrations of this. Because to them, this is what it's really saying in code, whether you know it or not. And every time you say this and talk about it, the event was set up this. And why do you think you call emergency system is 911? Why do you think all of these things exist like that? Oh, here was our money during that time. How was it that this money was planned so far in advance in another form of witchcraft and gematria that it could be folded to show you the exact destruction that took place, this event? And why do tarot cards have the tower crumbling? Why does the barcode have this as the end, middle, and end numbers on it? Do you think this is still an accident? Oh, look at this. Here are the towers crumbling down in the exact sequence from $5 to $100 bill. Accident? Nope. All right, moving right along. Here's Mr. Patriot right here. I need to tell you that this information that I'm skipping past is full of mind-boggling things to know as well as you're reading this. I'm having to breeze through this as just a reference for you. Why is there gold fringe on our flags in the courtrooms? They're not supposed to be there. We're not supposed to be under military occupation. Why did the Patriot Act get formed? Well, that was for the reasons we're facing nowadays. Check out here is all the 911 things involved, all the 9s and 11s in the event that took place 20 years ago. Check this out. Flight 77, 65 people, 6 plus 5 is 11. Flight 11 had 92 on board, 9 plus 2 is 11. You think this is an accident? You think these numbers, this was all real? That these planes just accidentally all had this information? That everything keeps adding up? New York City has 11 letters. Do you think this is all an accident? We're getting into super high levels of gematria and witchcraft and years of planning for things. 119 is the area code of Iran. Oh, wow. What is that? Backwards, and 9, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11 happen, right? You think you know everything, right? People think they know what is place and they got a good handle on not getting fooled. Well, here is the former head of Planetary Initiative. That means what they're to do throughout the world for the United Nations. This guy's name was David Spangler. No one will enter into the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Satan. What? This guy is the former head of Planetary Initiative. Wow, and coming right out and say it. No one will enter into a new age unless he will take a Luciferian initiative. I bet you didn't know that when you heard on the television people talking about the United Nations. Here's some more. Here's Robert Mueller agreeing with all of this stuff. He created World Core Curriculum. This is something that goes through every aspect of human life and taking control of it, including the education system, matching what this guy was talking about. And do you think that you knew this? Did you know all this? Do you think that you don't need to take time to sit down and maybe read this, even if it is a digital book? What are our kids going to learn? They go through that. What are the plans they have for you? What is UNESCO? Do you know what that is? How they planned it? Who was Alice Bailey? What is a Satanist and New Agey Satanist who had huge influence over all writings and the things that took place for the United Nations? And what did they plan? How did Madame Blavatsky, founder of Theosophical Society, basically Luciferianism, how did she have such huge influence over the United Nations and the World Core Curriculum and the things your kids are having to learn in school, the things that took place with controlling our society 20 years ago, setting up the Patriot Act? What is going on to this very moment to the things you turn on television? Do you think you don't need to know this information? and be able, this is why I have it in a digital form here so that you can just scan section of it. You've got that guy on social media and they're doing the normie talk or the ultra liberal talk where they're repeating some talking point from CNN or something or CNBC, and they're like, meh, meh. Take a section of this and blast it over to them, right? And say, here's the initiative. This is what's going on. Shut your pie hole, because here's the truth. Here we go. What happened that caused us to get into wars? There's always some event they tell us that wasn't true. They don't mind killing off quite a few people, right? Here is the sinking of the Lusitania. That was set up on purpose. They knew about that. That got us into war. Another thing, look this up. You can find it in this book. What happened with the USS Liberty and Israel? There's an odd thing. There is a false Christ that is worshipped, and throughout the United Nations, they call him Maitreya. This is someone we recognize as against Christ. Maitreya, get familiar with that. And then here's some more stuff of numbers and how they use gematria. Not knowing this will cause you to stay fooled your entire life, because they are running programs based off of witchcraft and gematria. And some people, they're still like, that's not true. Oh, that's hokey pokey. I don't want to hear all that. A lot of times you will find as well, when you're pointing this out, a high-level Mason will be the one giving you all the scorn about exposing numbers and the use of things. President Kennedy was killed according to occult numerology, in the signature of 11. We remember 11, 9/11. He was killed in the 11th month on the 22nd day and on the 33rd parallel. He was killed in the Del Rey Plaza. The number 11 is extremely important. It's a power number. And the master numbers are 11, 22, and 33. Funny that he was assassinated on the 11th month and the 22nd day and the 33rd parallel. Isn't it strange? The code 11, 33, and 22. Maybe you should be familiar with this. April 15th and the day you pay taxes. That also is a significant number you should know about. April 15th, 120 countries signed the GATT World Trade Treaty. So Abraham Lincoln was assassinated on April 15th. The Titanic was sunk on April 15th. Do you think they're using code language and numbers? Do you think you need to know this stuff? Do you think other people might need to know it so that the world doesn't stay deceived? Do you think this book, this course, is important for you to know? What got us into World War I? It goes through and explains that. Let's get moving here now so we don't stay so long on this certain subject. Why are all these transvestite things being pushed in schools and transhumanism? Oh, there is a tie to that as well, and you need to know it. It may not be what you think it is. Why is this group of people all in charge of every single group, corporation, and such that is doing things that you disagree with, might find inhumane or uncivil, or producing things in the media that seems to be against God? Isn't that strange? I think we need to know about it. Not all of them are involved. I'm talking about the high level people. So here we're going to move past this subject, because that is something that will cause this not to get seen on this platform. Planned Parenthood, how did it originate? What was the tie to Sanger and the Nazis and the Birth Control League? You might want to know that in your decisions of whether you think abortion is actually for women's rights, or was it created as a form of human sacrifice? What was the connection between Churchill and Stalin and Roosevelt? What was the connection between all of these puppets? How did they end up getting us in war? I'm not going to talk about that. You can just look at it. I'm not going to mention that. What is the connection between these things? You need to know. Here's a statement. Remember this. Out of the Roman states, there is no country where I'm Pope, except the United States. Pope Gregory. America is the hope of Rome. And Rome doesn't necessarily represent at all Protestant Christianity. Why would he make that statement? What is it that you don't know? Here's some more information about New World Order stuff. The ties to why is John Heinz Kerry doing with Anton LaVey at a fundraiser for church? Isn't that weird? And there he is with Catholic priest. What is the connections to all these things? And why were all the sixes? I think that's Act 66666. Accident? Just a coincidence being shown here. Why do all of the world leaders in front of you do this hand sign right here? All of them do this. It's It's the same hand sign that is done at the rock concerts for the like satanic. Does have a connection now. I also go into gematria and glyphs and mind stuff that you don't think affects you, but evidently it does. And if not, they wouldn't be doing it. And which companies absolutely use, there are thousands of them, by the way, this particular number and encode it and hide it right in their logos. And it's not a coincidence or accident, and we're not seeing it because we want to see it. Oh my goodness, here's Disney, and why would they put that in there? Oh, that. So this is an accident. That is an accident. Why does this say sex and the stars? That's it. Oh, here's Bono doing that same hand sign. He loves you. Right? He doesn't have any connection. Oh, here's the Beatles. The Beatles had Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man who ever lived. He himself, the Beast. He brought back he brought back the old ways of doing black magic. And here's the Beatles doing that hand sign, and they had him on Sgt. Pepper's album cover because he was one of their heroes. And here's Kiss, of course, doing the hand sign, and talks about all these bands and how they came about and the formation during that time period. The connection to Beatles and Aleister Crowley, the connection to the CIA at that time, in the beginning of it, the connection to the church. Whoa, what's that symbol in the background right there? Why is that symbol, that same symbol on our dollar bill about New World Order stuff? Isn't that weird? Why are all these saints and people always putting these cave things like this? What in the Smithsonian formed, and where did all these bones go after they discover them? Everybody's like, oh, Photoshop. Well, of course, they're going to come out with fake Photoshop ones to cover up for the real ones, because even Abraham Lincoln talked about and said that there were giants and giant bones discovered. Why would he mention that as far back as in the 1800s if it didn't exist? Here are anomalies found. We read in the book, in the Bible and Greek writings, and to the Greeks, their teachings were not mythology, it was history to them. And here are some giants, it appears to be frozen in time. Here is another one. There's these things all around the world where it appears something turned these, like Medusa type thing, turned giants to stone. Isn't that strange going back in history? Talks about what angels are able to do and not do. Need to know about that. More information on the UFOs and the ancient paintings that depict the chariots of the angels and how possibly angels traveled maybe in these craft, why they ended up in paintings like and on coins. How strange is that? Covered up. We were gaslighted not to know. People knew for thousands of years. Why in this painting of Jesus on the cross is there two angels traveling in craft? Isn't that weird? Here they are. Many of these paintings, need to read about this. Here is a bunch of these paintings with craft painted flying in the background surrounding Jesus, having to do what all these saucers. Here's a saucer, light beams coming down. Ancient astronauts discovered all of these cave walls, stuff. Ancient Chinese. Here's a painting. Here's a UFO way back when in the background. Chinese paintings. Look, you got flying. You think that's an accident? You think people couldn't do that during a certain point in time? Very strange, right? What are all of these UFOs? This is from Gulliver's Travels in the 1700s. Here's a drawing. Here he is. Wow. How did you know that in the 1700s people knew what flying saucers looked like? I bet you didn't know that. Check that out. Whoa, what is this that the Navy has admitted caught on camera from a jet? Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Need to know about this and read about this. Engineer, what was their connection to contacting other entities to learn how to build these things that actually flew and existed? They did. Check these out. Here's pictures right here of these German craft flying. Doesn't this right here look exactly like what we saw? Here's a picture, and this looks exactly like what was painted in that old painting, doesn't it? Isn't that strange? Here is something that was bought from the space shuttle. Images, when zoomed in, these things were flying all around. They look like you would think they were jellyfish or something, but they move and turn. What is this doing moving around in outer space? That's weird. Right, here's some more stuff caught on camera. You need to read about this. This is stuff the Germans built. This isn't a hoax. That's real. Here it is flying. You need to know about all this, the connection to all of this type of stuff. Why does NASA use all of this encoded, strange, pagan symbolism stuff? I thought we were a Christian country. Why is all that in there? You need to know about it. All morphed into our society. Here is symbolism from everything that you look at every day, corporate logos. Time Warner, here's the eye. Why does Dodge Ram have a ram's head, but then it has the goat? Why does it have a goat inside of it? And you look at it every day and not see it in coding. Why does Lucius, which used to be Lucifer, why is it a 666? Geez, I wonder why. Why does Lotto have 666 on there? Isn't that, there's the all see, look at every day. Oh, now you look at this, but what did it used to be? Seems like kind of a symbol or something, right in your face, kind of pornographic. Why does time, there's the eye and this kind of spirally set there and the sun symbols here. Why is this stuff evil eye? More triangles and eyes. Isn't it weird? Why does two snakes? Why is the snake encoded in this here? What's that mean? Here's this connection. Remember seeing this and it's on our dollar. Why way back in Spock wearing these symbols here? What does that mean? Monster, the eye. Why? What does that got to do? You know, to put that in there, right? They make you think it's about this guy, but really it's something else once you know. Monster, boy, it had a lot of weird stuff in it once you go looking into it. The stars on the Republican elephant flipped upside down, and here's the Baphomet symbol. Why would that? That's not an accident. Is that an accident? I don't think so. Why is Fox News and gematria? Why does that mean 666? What is going on here with sixes and stuff? Why does the euro have 666? Is it an accident? I mean, are we living in a funny world? Or why do all of these things? Why are they creating all of this stuff with this symbolism right in your face, and you look at it every day and you don't know it? Do you think you need to know this stuff and read about it a little more in depth and figure out that they're using not only their corporate logos to sell things and make you recognize them, but they're actually creating emotional and psychological responses that affect you. And it's a form of witchcraft. I think you need to read about this and know it. This is why this book was important for you to know. And you need to learn about the Federal Reserve and all this weird stuff involved with that, and how it wasn't fully voted on and it took away American freedom. And who is this guy here? Rothschild. I think we learned about Rothschild in the formation of a Middle Eastern country, didn't we? You need to know about that. Lots of information here to know about the connection with Epstein and a certain country and compromising all of our officials for the will of this certain country to control us. Lots of information here to learn how American history was rewritten. Realize that the constitutions of the states, you not only had to be a Christian, but you had to be a Protestant Christian and swear an oath to even hold office. Why do you think they did that? If you had to swear oath to hold office as a government, had to be a Protestant and a Christian to do so, then why were these intelligent people forming a government to protect the people and be by the people and for the people? Who were they excluding? It is an exclusive, not an inclusive, it is an exclusive formation of government and freedom that made America great. And if you back engineer that, you may be able to figure out historically what groups or people work to take away your freedom. It's common sense. Here's some oddities getting into this, how the CIA infiltrated 17 area groups and gave out LSD. This was way back in this, when they started beginning the whole rock and roll movement. You need to know why the rock and roll movement, as in advertisement. So I was an advertising major in college, and I became an expert now on subliminal advertising and exposing things like simple as looking at a cracker in an advertisement, and then why do they implant all these words that say sex? Hey, whoa, why is stacking Pepsi cans? How did that end up saying that? Accident. You think you need to know about this to keep from getting fooled and all kinds of stuff? Boy, did they encode a lot of this. Remember 9/11 is 666, and how come people are always born on 9/11 in the movies here? It's going to have a whole list of movies and connections to all that. Why is the dates in this here keep saying 9/11? Isn't that weird? I wonder why their microphones say 9/11. Isn't that strange? It's an accident, right? How come in this writing right here at the top he's born 9/11? Isn't that weird too? Oh, the bomb's going to go off in 9/11 seconds. Oh, happy birthday, Adam, here at 9/11. Got appointments. Oh, it's all accident. Oh, watch out. The height is 9/11 on this movie. Martial law coming to you in the siege, 9/11. Isn't that strange? Why in all of these old movies on the covers did they have this symbolism here? Like a couple of towers. Oh, what's this here? No, is 9/11 on that movie? Why did the towers collapse in this? You stand there watching them, and how come the Simpsons predict everything? Everywhere. Remember, all over here is explanations and movies and connections to all of this. You can't get around it. It's not an accident or a coincidence. Oh, look what time it is in 11. Well, it's in the background. How come there's no 10th aisle? It goes right to 9, goes to 11. Accident. You think all of this stuff is just getting in these movies and getting in for you to look at by accident. You think that this stuff here going back as far as 1979? Do you think these advertisements going back to 1968? Do you think things haven't been planned by spiritual entities and humans who worship and follow this stuff? If they aren't manipulating you, and that as a Christian and a patriot, you need to know this stuff, or of like some people are diehards in believing that a certain organization here is Christian. However, what symbolism of dying Jesus always kept on a crooked cross or whatever while wearing a fish god hat, Dagon hat? Why? We get into symbolism that you look at every day and have no idea. Here's the Washington Monument. It is a symbol of Osiris's missing member, and you figure out what a missing member is. Here in Washington, D.C., is this symbol right here, which is the feminine, right? This represents the feminine. See that? Why is your national monument a symbol of a missing member in the middle feminine? Oh, you think that's an accident, right? That's just a coincidence. You're just looking for stuff, right? No way that was done on purpose. And then you need to know this right here as far as what's controlling the world. You need to know the connections between, hey, we're all in the same club. We're enemies, but in the same club. Isn't that strange? Oh, look at this at a satanic meeting. What hand symbol are they doing? It means I love you, right? Why the United Nations? Why would you have a 666? Why would you even put that up there behind this big meeting? Isn't it weird? Everybody's doing this hand symbol. Why are they doing this hand symbol? Satanic albums. There's a drowning priest. They're doing the symbol. Are they all in the same club? And do you think you can trust them? My goodness, look how many people. Even Spider-Man's doing this symbol. Why? This is too much, right? You need to know what each. There's thousands and thousands of these symbols. Can't go in. This is all technical stuff about the numbers, how they plan to take over America. You need to know the Bill of Rights. Talks about the gatekeepers here and tells you how to recognize people who are pretending to be making you aware, pretending to be telling you about this kind of information I'm sharing with you, and then how to identify gatekeepers, because they fool millions of people. They seem to be they know everything. They know everything. They know stuff that is impossible to know even. So be able to recognize them because it's very simple, and they always some simple things to expose themselves. Welcome once again to another Sons of Light production. You are with me today, Daniel Collier, and we are covering the book, The Sons of Light, Reason to Believe in How Satan Deceives the World. If you are completely and totally sick of this thing called the deep state, if you are tired of being deceived by the news and the next great false flag, odd information, not understanding what's going on. This is some older clothing that was out at the time. And Bay Propaganda was a very popular shirt at the time with Aleister Crowley's face on it. That was very popular clothes. People walking around wearing that energy on them. Anyway, I'm not going to, you can read all these shirts, very time. And then the rest of the book goes in very technical detail about evidence for a creator, and as well the expanded version of this book also very much in depth about exposing who this state is and the mud flood in millennial kingdom. And most of you on this channel are familiar with that already, but it goes into showing you the buildings that are impossible for us to have built during the time and have to be built by people that lived 1,000 years or angels or something, 600 room buildings, floors that you couldn't move with ox carts and things. You know all of this stuff. So here we are. I've gone through this. It's Reason to Believe. I'll leave a link to it in the description. And this is why it is important to get this book, to learn about it, and keep it as a preservation for your family and your children to know, so that generationally your family is not under this spell any longer. This is Dan Collier for the Sons of Light. Get your copy. Enjoy. We'll see you later.